You've been lied to, not once, not twice, but every day of your life since you were a child. They called it romance. They wrapped it in songs, in movies, in Disney princesses, and candlelit kisses. They told you that love is the ultimate prize, that if you just wait, work, and wish hard enough, you'll find her, the one, your soulmate, your salvation. But no one told you what happens after the credits roll. No one told you that the hero often ends up divorced, alone, broke, or dead inside. Because the lie isn't in the idea of love, it's in what they never told you about it. That love, as you've been sold, is not a gift. It's a drug, a high, a trap, a biological sleight of hand designed not for your happiness, but for your usefulness. And if you don't understand that, you will be destroyed by it. You think this is harsh? Ask Alex, 35 years old, 6 figures, fit, loyal. He met her in college, married young. He put her first in everything, built a business, took care of her family, sacrificed nights, weekends, even parts of himself. He believed that love was service, that love meant giving everything, so he gave. Until one day he lost his biggest client, the money dried up, and her gaze changed. Colder, more distracted. "I don't know who you are anymore," she said. Within months she was gone. House gone, son taken, half his savings transferred by court order. And Alex? He stood there like every man who's ever woken up from a dream and realized it was a nightmare. What did I do wrong? That's the wrong question. The right one is, what false script did I follow? Schopenhauer didn't believe in fairy tales. 200 years ago, he called love what it truly is, a biological illusion, a trick played by the species to ensure reproduction. Not a soul connection, not destiny, a trick, a chemical hijack of your rational mind designed to lure you into protecting, providing, and passing on your genes. That lightning bolt of attraction you felt, that tunnel vision where she was the only thing in the world that mattered, that wasn't God whispering to your heart. That was dopamine, oxytocin, testosterone, your body's way of saying, breed now. It felt profound. It wasn't. It was efficient. Nature doesn't care about your poetic soul. It cares about your sperm count. But the illusion doesn't end with desire. It deepens when she smiles at you, when she laughs at your jokes, when she says, "You're different." You want to believe that. You need to. Because it justifies the worship, the sacrifice, the surrender. You want to believe she sees your soul, but she doesn't, not in the way you think. She sees potential, protection, provision. She doesn't care how kind you are. She cares what your kindness signals. Can you keep her safe? Can you give her status? Can you give her options her biology never had on its own? You think that sounds cynical? Look around. You've seen the patterns, you just never connected them. The nice guy who gets dumped after years of loyalty. The husband who's discarded after the kids grow up. The boyfriend who loses her the moment his ambition fades. That's not coincidence. It's programming. Women don't fall for effort. They fall for strength. And when the strength disappears, so does the attraction. Schopenhauer didn't hate women. He simply refused to worship them. He observed, he wrote, "Love is the ultimate goal of almost all human effort. It is more important than anything else in life." But he didn't mean that as praise. He meant it as a warning, because men chase love not from abundance, but from emptiness. They chase it because they think it will complete them, and that makes them vulnerable. The more you need love, the more you are willing to give up to get it. Your time, your money, your ambition, your power. And in that bargain, you don't win love, you lose yourself. This is why most men are confused. They think love is a reward for being good, for being loyal, for being generous. But women don't love like that. Not because they're evil, but because they're wired differently. Their instincts are older than civilization. Back when survival meant everything, a woman's choice of partner could determine whether her children lived or died. She didn't choose based on character. She chose based on strength, and that instinct is still alive, stronger than ever, disguised as chemistry, standards, or having a type, but it's ancient code, and you can't outlove code. That's why men like Jason, kind, sensitive, patient, get ghosted. Why men like Mark, distant, dominant, dangerous, get chased. Because value isn't proven by how much you give. It's perceived by how little you need. A man who needs her validation becomes predictable, safe, contained. And biology doesn't reward safety, it rewards challenge. But no one tells you this. Instead, they tell you to open up, be vulnerable, share your feelings, apologize more, be available. And when it doesn't work, when she drifts, you're told to try harder, love harder, bend further, but the more you bend, the more you break. Because she didn't fall in love with your service. She fell in love with your spine. Lose that, and you lose her. There's something no one teaches young men, that every time you place her at the center of your world, you move yourself out of it. You become a satellite, not a sun. You orbit her. You submit. And submission is not sexy, not in the way you hope. The man who gives her everything is the man she eventually resents, not because he's bad, but because he's predictable, because he needs her more than she needs him. And in that imbalance, desire dies. You think love makes you a man. It doesn't. Purpose does. Direction. Self-respect. Women don't want to lead your life. They want to join it. If you have no mission outside of them, they become your mission. And that pressure crushes attraction. Every time. This is the tragedy Schopenhauer called the tyranny of possession. The chase excites, the capture suffocates. Not because she's heartless, because biology is restless. So what's the answer? Give up on love? No, understand it, see it. Stop expecting it to save you. Start seeing it as a dance, not a debt. If she chooses you, great. If she leaves, let her. Because the man who can walk away is the one who never truly loses. He was whole before she arrived, and he will be whole when she's gone. There's a reason monks, warriors, kings, and philosophers across history warned men to master their desires. Not because women are demons, but because unchecked longing makes you a slave. And a man in chains, even if those chains are wrapped in perfume and silk, is still a man in chains. You want to be loved? Fine. But don't make it your purpose. Don't make her your God. The world does not reward desperation, it punishes it. And nothing reeks of desperation more than a man who abandons himself for affection. Build yourself, own your space, guard your time. If love finds you on that path, welcome it, but never crawl for it. Because here's the truth, the most powerful man isn't the one who conquers women. It's the one who no longer needs to, the one who sees the lie and walks past it. You thought being good would be enough, that if you were kind, loyal, supportive, generous, she would see you, choose you, stay. But that's not how nature works. And make no mistake, dating, mating, relationships, they're not moral decisions. They're nature playing chess. And you've been playing checkers with your heart on the board. You thought this was about fairness, about romance, about being the better man. But women don't choose based on justice. They choose based on instinct. Biological programming, thousands of years old, running in the background of every text, every flirt, every rejection. That's why you can't understand how she left you for someone who treated her worse. Why she pulled away the moment you opened up. Why she got bored when you became available. It wasn't about you, it was about the game. A game you never learned the rules of. The truth is brutal. Every woman you've ever loved was testing you. Not in some manipulative, cruel way, but in the deepest, most primal sense. Her biology was scanning you. Do you have backbone? Can you protect her in chaos? Will you lead or fold? She tests not because she wants to ruin you, but because she wants to survive. Women have always needed to select wisely. The wrong man, the weak man, the emotionally dependent man, that was death, not disappointment. So even in today's civilized world, the tests remain. They're subtle but relentless. She's watching how you respond when she's late, when she criticizes you, when she flirts with another guy just to see if you'll flinch. Do you stand still or do you unravel? And if you unravel, the clock starts ticking, because once she sees your core is made of compromise, the attraction begins to rot. Not instantly, slowly, invisibly, until one day she says, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." And you think it came out of nowhere. It didn't. It came from failing the test. But you don't even know what the test was, because no one teaches men how women select. Not your school, not your parents, not the media. All you're told is be nice, be present, communicate, be vulnerable. But if that worked, the world wouldn't be full of heartbroken men who followed all the rules and still got discarded. The truth is darker. Love doesn't grow through safety, it grows through polarity. The masculine leads, the feminine responds. If you're following her, trying to please her, giving her the emotional wheel, she may appreciate it, but she will never desire it. She may even say she wants it, but she doesn't, not in her bones, and biology always wins. This is why the nice guy finishes last, not because he's bad, but because he's invisible. He offers predictability in a world where evolution rewards unpredictability. You think being dependable is sexy, but dependability without strength becomes servitude. And women weren't designed to fall in love with servants. They respect leaders. They chase the man who knows how to say no, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. The man who doesn't rearrange his schedule every time she frowns. The man who doesn't explain himself every time she tests him. The man who knows his value and walks like it. Let's get even more real. Look at dating apps. 80% of women are swiping for the top 20% of men. That's not an opinion, that's data. That means most men are chasing, begging, performing, and getting ignored. While a tiny sliver of high-value men gets flooded with attention. Why? Because attention has become currency, and women are biologically trained to invest only where the return is highest. It's brutal, but it's efficient. She doesn't want average, she wants exceptional. Not in kindness, but in value, status, confidence, emotional control. And most men are broke in all three. So what happens? The average man tries harder. He becomes nicer, more agreeable, more available, and in doing so, he lowers his value even more, until he becomes a convenience, a placeholder, a therapist with a wallet. And when someone better comes along, she leaves without guilt, because she never respected him as a man. Only as a provider of comfort. That's not love, that's utility, and utility is always replaceable. You still think women fall in love with who you are? They fall in love with what you represent. Not your poetry, your power, not your compliments, your certainty. If you don't lead, she won't follow. If you don't stand firm, she won't melt. And if you don't walk away when disrespected, she'll test you harder until there's nothing left to test. This is the law of emotional physics. Weakness creates friction. Strength creates gravity. You want her to be drawn to you? Then be unmoved. Be grounded. Not cold, but untouchable. Not arrogant, but sovereign. Be the man who doesn't chase, but chooses. Who doesn't beg, but builds. Because here's the truth. Schopenhauer saw before Tinder was even a thought. To be loved, you must not be good. You must be formidable. And when you are, the game changes. She stops testing. She starts respecting. She leans in because she knows you could walk away. And that possibility that she might lose you awakens a fear far more potent than any romantic gesture. The fear of missing something irreplaceable. You, whole, focused, unbending. Not because you're playing games, but because you no longer are one. So stop asking what she wants. Start asking who you are. Because when you become a man of weight, of presence, of unwavering value, she won't just want you, she'll feel gravity toward you. And gravity doesn't beg, it pulls, effortlessly. You thought the battlefield was out in the open. That power was measured in muscles, money, or the volume of a man's voice. But the most devastating force in any relationship isn't visible. It doesn't shout, it whispers, it doesn't strike, it bends reality. Men have always waged war with fists, weapons, logic. But women, they've mastered the art of influence, of subtext, of unseen leverage. Not because they're evil, because for thousands of years they had to. In a world where physical strength determines survival, the physically weaker learn to survive through emotional power. And today, that emotional warfare is still being waged, online, in bedrooms, in boardrooms, and most men don't even know they're losing. You think you're in control. She smiles, touches your arm, sends that late-night text. You think you've won something, but what you don't see is the frame, the game beneath the game. She's already testing your compliance. Will you change plans to see her? Will you drop your priorities to meet hers? She doesn't ask outright. She doesn't have to. The most powerful weapon isn't dominance, it's vulnerability. The illusion of weakness is the ultimate control mechanism. Schopenhauer called it the tyranny of the weak. The idea that the one who appears powerless can control the powerful by evoking guilt, obligation, emotion. Not through strength, but through subtle manipulation. She doesn't demand. She makes you feel bad for not giving. She doesn't argue. She cries. She doesn't tell you to surrender. She makes you believe it was your idea. And you go along with it because you were trained to, conditioned to believe that love means sacrifice, that good men bend, that masculinity is toxic unless it's soft and apologetic. So you give in, not once, not twice, but again and again, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the man you see. Your eyes are dull, your spine is bent, your mission is gone, your value evaporated, and still she's pulling away. Why? Because you passed every test she didn't even know she was giving, and in doing so you failed the one that mattered. You stopped being a man she could admire and became a man she could direct. Look at social media. You'll see the battlefield. Millions of men liking, commenting, chasing shadows, worshiping women who don't know they exist, hoping that one more heart emoji will earn attention. But attention isn't love. It's bait. It's a performance economy, and most men are the unpaid caste. While women monetize their image, men monetize nothing but their need to be seen, needed, chosen. And in doing so, they surrender their power to algorithms and avatars. This is the new seduction, not of the body, but of the mind. But this isn't new. It's just modern. It's dressed in filters and DMs. But the mechanism is ancient. Emotional leverage, perception control. Schopenhauer saw it clearly even then. Women lacking brute strength survive by reading men, reading their tone, their posture, their micro-expressions. While you think you're having a conversation, she's reading 1,000 signals. You're explaining yourself, she's calculating frame loss. You're opening up, she's sensing instability. And every time you compromise, defer, apologize without strength, she doesn't feel closer. She feels less safe. Because safety in the feminine brain is not just protection, it's certainty. Certainty that the man in front of her cannot be bent. Yet modern culture encourages the opposite. Men are taught to overshare, over-emote, over-accommodate, be more open, be more sensitive, but not from strength, from fear. Fear of being abandoned, fear of not being enough. And in that fear, men start to contort themselves into what they think women want, only to discover women lose desire the moment they get it. Because desire isn't born from similarity, it's born from polarity. The more you mirror her emotions, the more you become her emotional twin, not her man. So she tests harder. She flirts with another man to watch your reaction. She withholds affection to see how you respond. She picks fights just to feel your frame. And when you fail, when you crumble, she doesn't feel pity, she feels confirmation that she's now the one leading, that she must carry the emotional burden, that she has become the man in the relationship, and nothing kills intimacy faster than reversed polarity. It's not her fault, and it's not yours. It's nature, it's programming, it's the laws of attraction that no amount of progressive ideology can rewrite. When a man forgets who he is, no woman can remind him. When he surrenders his mission for her mood, she cannot love him the same. And when he sacrifices his edge to gain closeness, he loses both. But there's a darker truth, one that most men refuse to face. It's not that women are manipulating them, it's that men are willingly giving away their power, begging for love, pleading for attention, hoping that if they become small enough, soft enough, agreeable enough, someone will finally stay. But the feminine doesn't crave smallness. It craves stability. And a man cannot be stable if he's built on need. So what's the alternative? Resent her? No. Understand her. Respect her nature, but don't submit to it. Recognize the game, but don't rage against it. Adapt. Evolve. Because once you see it clearly, you can stop reacting. You can stop dancing to emotional tests. You can stop orbiting and become your own sun again. The truth is simple, but brutal. The man who needs nothing is the man who cannot be manipulated. The man who leads himself is the only man worth following. And the man who refuses to chase validation becomes the only one who receives it. So the next time she tests you, hold your frame. The next time you're tempted to overshare, check your center. The next time your instincts beg you to prove yourself, remember this: the one who proves loses. Let your presence speak. Let your clarity cut through case. Let your silence command more than 1,000 words. Because the man who doesn't flinch in the face of emotional pressure is the man she never forgets. You've been walking blind, not because your eyes were closed, but because you were trained to see the world through someone else's lens. Trained to believe that sacrifice equals love, that suffering earns loyalty, that if you just keep giving, eventually she'll give back. But here's the truth: she won't. Not because she's broken, not because she's evil, but because you've been playing by rules that don't exist. The moment you made her the center of your gravity, you lost your orbit. And no woman, no matter how kind, no matter how nurturing, can love a man who has lost his center. This is where the awakening begins, not with revenge, not with resentment, but with a hard look in the mirror. Not at her, at you. Because she's not the one who gave up your power. You did. Every time you compromised what you wanted to keep her comfortable. Every time you apologized for your ambition to seem balanced. Every time you stayed silent when your instincts screamed otherwise. You were trading your edge for acceptance, and it cost you everything. But here's the secret they never told you. Masculinity is not noise. It's not aggression. It's not volume. It's direction, precision, intent. It's the quiet clarity that says, "This is who I am," and moves forward whether she follows or not. That kind of man doesn't chase. He builds, he creates, he becomes. And in doing so, he draws people, not because he needs them, but because they recognize something rare. A man who no longer negotiates with weakness. You want her to see you again? Then stop disappearing. Stop dimming. Stop bending backwards, hoping she'll finally say you're enough. Start remembering who you were before the world told you to be soft. Before you believed that your masculinity was something to apologize for. Before you made her emotions the authority over your mission. Because you were not born to be a supplement to someone else's story. You were born to write your own, and no great man ever built an empire by asking for permission to lead. Look at every moment you were betrayed. The heartbreak, the ghosting, the disrespect. It didn't happen when you were at your strongest. It happened when you gave your crown away, when you made her your son and stood in the shadow, when you confused obedience for love. But love doesn't grow where leadership dies. And no woman, no matter how much she says she wants equality, truly wants to be the man in the relationship. The second she senses she has to lead, to initiate, to guide, you've already lost the throne. But here's what's beautiful. The throne can be reclaimed, not by demanding submission, but by embodying sovereignty. The man who has nothing to prove, nothing to chase, and everything to build. That man becomes unshakable. He doesn't need her to stay. He doesn't fear her leaving. He respects her nature, but he's not governed by it. He offers direction, not devotion. Presence, not performance. And from that place, something strange happens. She softens. She stops testing. She starts following, not because she's weak, but because she finally feels safe. This isn't about dominating women. It's about mastering yourself, about reclaiming the fire you gave away in exchange for affection. Because the feminine doesn't fall for the man who yields. It falls for the man who stands. And the second you become that man, not in theory, but in posture, energy, and presence, she feels it. Whether she's your girlfriend, your wife, or a stranger at the coffee shop, she feels your gravity. And she responds, not with games, but with surrender. You want to know why some men get women effortlessly while others struggle for scraps? It's not looks, it's not money, it's frame. The unspoken authority of a man who knows his value so deeply, he'd rather be alone than compromise. That's the man who walks into a room and doesn't scan for approval. That's the man whose time is currency, whose words are deliberate, whose silence is louder than most people's shouting. He doesn't try to prove he's not like other guys. He's too busy becoming someone they can't even compare to. But this awakening is brutal. It costs you your illusions. You'll have to bury the part of you that thought love could be won with suffering. You'll have to kill the impulse to beg. You'll have to let go of the belief that your worth depends on being chosen. Because it doesn't, it never did. You were born with a kingdom inside you. And every time you chased her approval, you left the gates unlocked. You let someone else decide your value. And that ends now. There's no halfway here. Either you reclaim your edge or you continue to bleed slowly in the name of false intimacy. Either you rise as a man with purpose or you remain a boy waiting for love to give him permission to live. She won't save you. She can't. That's your job. And once you accept that, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop performing, you move, and the world moves around you. This is the awakening. The moment you stop looking for a throne to kneel before and realize you were meant to build one yourself. The moment you stop asking, what do women want? And start asking, what kind of man do I refuse to betray? Because that man, that unwavering, focused, unshakable force, is the only man truly worth loving. Not just by her, but by himself. You've come this far, stripped of illusions, burned by truths too raw for the average man to accept. You've seen the lie that love is not unconditional, that desire is not fair, that your suffering doesn't earn you a damn thing. But now comes the part no one prepares you for. Because once the mask is off, once you stop chasing validation and finally see the game for what it is, you're left with one question. Now what? Most men stop here. They wake up angry, bitter, resentful. They see women not as humans, but as enemies. They flip the table instead of learning to play with better cards. But that's not power. That's reaction. That's weakness disguised as defiance. If you truly want to be free, you must rise above the board altogether. Because this isn't about women. It never was. It's about you, your inability to say no, your fear of being alone, your hunger for external validation. The woman was just the mirror, and you've been hiding from your reflection your entire life. Schopenhauer once said, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves to be like other people." He wasn't just talking about society, he was talking about men who betray their nature to fit into someone else's expectations. You gave up your fire for comfort. You gave up your clarity for affection. And in the end, you were left with neither. Because a man who orbits someone else's needs will always be replaceable. But a man who builds his world around his own center of gravity, that man becomes undeniable. The real game begins the moment you stop playing theirs. When you stop performing for love and start performing for legacy. When you stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I create? This is not retreat. This is rebirth. Because true masculinity isn't about dominance. It's about direction. It's not about how many women you can sleep with. It's about how many illusions you can kill inside yourself. Look around. Every man you admire, truly admire, is not obsessed with being liked. He's obsessed with becoming. The artist, the warrior, the builder. These are not men who chase. They choose. They walk paths so magnetic, so vivid, so self-defined that others cannot help but follow. Not because they asked, because they led. And if a woman walks beside them, it's because she's inspired, not required. Modern society tells you to be soft, to be sensitive, to open up before you've even earned respect. And then it mocks you when she leaves. It sells you passivity as virtue and strength as toxicity. It tells you to express your emotions but never to master them, to be agreeable but somehow still attractive, to surrender but still be desired. And when you follow that script, when you pour your heart out, when you center your world around her, you lose. Not because you're wrong, but because the game punishes need. Always has, always will. You don't reclaim your power by hating women. You reclaim it by refusing to abandon yourself again. By realizing that the chase is the distraction, the pedestal is the prison. The reward you seek was never her. It was the man you hoped you'd become if she loved you. But why wait? Why not become that man now, with or without her? Because here's the secret no one told you. Once you no longer need her, she finally sees you, not as a project, not as a provider, but as a presence, a storm with eyes, as a force too grounded to be manipulated, too focused to be swayed, too complete to be owned. That man does not beg. That man does not chase. That man builds, and the world bends to him. But let's go further, beyond attraction, beyond relationships, because the ultimate liberation is not in winning the game. It's in no longer needing to play. It's in becoming so internally resourced that no rejection, no breakup, no silence can shake your foundations. You no longer see loss as failure. You see it as refinement. Every woman who left, she didn't take something from you. She revealed something about you. And once you learn the lesson, the pain becomes fuel. The wound becomes wisdom. The weakness becomes will. Schopenhauer said, "The safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy." But that wasn't a call to apathy. It was a blueprint for emotional sovereignty. Because once you stop expecting the world to complete you, you become whole. Not numb, whole, capable of joy but not enslaved by it, open to love but not possessed by it, able to give without needing to be given to. That's not cold, that's clarity. So you want to know what freedom feels like? It feels like looking at a beautiful woman and appreciating her without needing her. It feels like building a life so rich, so purpose-driven, that her presence is a bonus, not a requirement. It feels like choosing solitude over subservience, like trusting your path even when you're walking alone, like knowing that your mission cannot be hijacked by a smile or derailed by a goodbye. Because at the end of the day, love is not something you receive, it's something you radiate. When you no longer chase it, it comes. When you no longer beg for it, it respects you. When you no longer define yourself by it, you finally understand what it means. And the man who reaches that level, he's no longer a player. He's the architect of the game. This is the final truth. The most dangerous lies aren't the ones women tell men. They're the ones men tell themselves. That they are not enough unless they're loved. That their worth depends on being needed. That if they just sacrifice more, serve harder, and stay quiet, they'll be chosen. But chosen for what? A role in someone else's story? A placeholder until she finds better? You were not born to be a background character. You were born to build the story itself. And no woman, no matter how beautiful, how brilliant, how soft, should ever become your reason for existing. Let her be your witness, not your why. So stand up, step back into your sovereignty, cut the invisible strings, walk forward with a spine made of principle and a heart that no longer bleeds for illusions. Because the man who needs nothing cannot be owned, and the man who cannot be owned is free. This entire journey has never been about women. It's been about you, about reclaiming what you gave away in your silent desperation to be loved. The lie was never that women are unloving. The lie was that you were ever incomplete without them. Through Schopenhauer's lens, you've seen that love, at its core, is a biological mechanism, powerful, beautiful, but never sacred. What matters is how you respond to that truth, not with bitterness, not with withdrawal, but with awakening. The masculine path is not to control women, or fear them, or depend on them. It is to build something so deeply rooted in self-respect, purpose, and direction that love becomes a reflection of your inner state, not its substitute. You don't chase, you lead, you don't beg, you build, you don't need, you choose. And when you live like that, everything changes, even love itself. So don't be the man who waits to be chosen. Be the man who chooses himself again and again until the game disappears, until there's only you, whole, free, unshakable.